Welcome. Thank you for coming. Today we're going to be talking about transitioning HealthShare from On-Prem to HealthShare Cloud. It's not too intimidating after the presentation from this morning, where they did not give me the Wicked Part 2 deck. My deck seems like it's written in crayons compared to that, but next year I'm going to AI the crap out of my presentation, I'll tell you that right now. So bear with me with my rudimentary slides.
It's fine.
So in this session, what we're going to talk about is moving a HealthShare deployment from an on-prem environment to our HealthShare Cloud environment. And so we'll just discuss the processes that we went through. We'll highlight some benefits. And the examples that we're giving you today, these come from real migrations that we've done, but we've been able to put them into 3 different categories about how we move them. And then we'll just talk about a little bit about timing and approaches, connectivity, and and then look at a project plan. So I am Sean McKenna. I'm a technical manager here at InterSystems, and I work in the professional services department. I've been with the company now for 13 years, mostly in professional services, but I did spend some time in support. And previously, I spent 17 years as a customer of InterSystems. I was a developer at IDX and GE Healthcare, and if you add those 2 numbers up, you'll realize I'm very old. Jim, would you like to tell people a little bit about yourself?
So my name is Jim Powers. I'm a program manager over the HIE and integration programs and professional services. I've been with InterSystems for just shy of 3 years. However, before that, I worked for about 6 years at one of our implementation partners. Before that, I've been around the block a little bit, working with HIE and in integration, pulling data together into longitudinal records. And I've been working for about 20 years in health IT. Most of that time has been either working with or working adjacent to InterSystems technology, whether that's months from my career in the lab industry all the way up through HealthShare today. So it's great to be here.
And so our professional services team is head up by Ricardo Fernandez. He's the director of professional services. He's been with the company for 16 years. And really what we're doing is a lot of the United States implementations of HealthShare. But we're doing it using a bunch of the different verticals like HIEs, some of the health plans and payers, some registries, which is one of our new initiatives, as well as IDNs and providers. So we're going to do a brief overview of what's the difference between on-prem and HealthShare Cloud, what are the benefits of HealthShare Cloud, what are the 3 types of migrations that we've seen, and then we'll talk a little bit about some implementation decisions that we need to think about when doing a migration, as well as showing a sample project plan, and then we'll take questions. Okay, so the differences between a on-prem environment and a HealthShare Cloud environment is that the data center is at the customer's site, whereas in the HealthShare Cloud, your solution will be running on an InterSystems data center, where this is a private cloud. This is not to be confused with Health Connect Cloud or any other clouds that we're talking about this week. This is the HealthShare Cloud. Server and equipment, the customer, you are responsible for. But in our HealthShare Cloud, we will take care of all the servers and equipment. Staffing, when you staff your solution to monitor the infrastructure, you're in charge of it. But for HealthShare Cloud, we'll do all the heavy lifting by our managed services team. And we're lucky enough to have 2 people here from the managed services team, Cecilia Brown and Amir Ishmael. So if we have any questions about staffing, they'll be happy to help you. Monitoring, so what the managed services team helps out with is monitoring to make sure CPU and memory and disk space and things are up and running. They'll take care of that 24/7. As far as the HealthShare solution, it is still owned by you, whether it is on your site or if it's in the cloud. This is your solution. Okay. So what are some of the benefits of going to HealthShare Cloud? Why have we had a number of people move? One is really the lower or the better total cost of ownership. So, you don't have to pay for the servers, you don't have to pay for any of the infrastructure costs or dealing with any of the complexity of the underlying places needed to support the solution. We also offer a pay-as-you-grow scalability, so you're only the more that you grow, the more things that you do, then you'll end up paying more, but you can align your reoccurring expenses and just evolve based on your own business demands and capacity requirements. And so this way you avoid either over-provisioning or under-provisioning or underutilizing the things that you have on site. And then also we're reducing risks. So InterSystems is going to be accountable for the security and infrastructure. Also, in addition to economic benefits, we also have some operational advantages. So, your organization will have no infrastructure to support. Our managed services team will oversee all the high availability, the data backups, disaster recovery, everything that has to do with the infrastructure. They maintain the environment, they'll do the patches and the upgrades and the ad hocs. And when we go to the cloud, we'll take all of your custom code and incorporate it into CCR, which is our code repository and delivery framework. So every time you make changes, we can safely move the code up through the different environments, from dev to test to production. Additionally, you can continue to configure and customize your solution to meet your needs. The HS Cloud is a high trust certified organization, so you can assure that we are providing strong security and high service levels, for you, and just focus your resources on the task and priorities rather than having people just constantly working on managing the infrastructure. All right, so those are the benefits, and let's talk about the different types of cloud migrations. Like I said, we've done a number of these, and we've been able to fit the types of migrations into three overarching types. One is lift and shift, so you pretty much are taking your solution, moving it over to the HealthShare Cloud, and then we will then you can keep going. But this actually has some limited ways of being able to optimize it. So, there are some things that hold you back a little bit, but we'll talk in detail about these different types in a minute. So the second type is a historical message replay. So basically, we'll have a new HealthShare environment, and we are going to replay all of the messages that you may have used to build your initial HealthShare site, but we're going to reuse those messages and to load the data into the new HealthShare environment. And so one of the benefits of this is we can do a platform upgrade. And we can also reuse your existing data pipelines because you've already done these historical message loads. We'll be able to do it again in the new environment. And then the third one that we're going to talk about today is a migration framework. So we've created a framework to be able to copy both SDA and clinical documents from your existing system into a new HealthShare system. And again, some of the benefits of the way we do this is you'll be able to do a platform upgrade, you'll be able to do some edge system consolidation, and there's no dependency on having the original data sources anymore. What you can use the data that exists in your system and just move it over. And no matter what type of migration you're going to be doing, one of the things that you will need to consider is migrating all the connectivity, the things coming in, the things going out of your system. And so, you know, the best way is to make sure that you have a complete transition plan for each type of connectivity, and to make sure that you parallelize that for during the time of your migration project. So there's a lot to consider. We'll go over each one of these in a second. So really the lift and shift, the thing I like most about lift and shift is that it rhymes. And if it was alliterative, I would be over the moon. But so lift and shift, all we're doing is taking the old system, doing a backup, sending a physical device in the mail to the new data center, installing it, restoring it, and then we now have a new system, right? So there's also lots of testing that goes involved in that. But so to get into the details, one of the first things we needed to do was we had to establish a secure tunnel from the old system to the new system. And we use this because we are going to be passing some journal files over. If you know anything about high availability or disaster recovery, you'll know that you can keep systems in sync through journal files. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to perform a full system backup on your original system, copy it to a physical storage device, ship it over to the new data center. Then the new data center unwraps it and it puts the blade into the rack or whatever they talk about in that infrastructure team. And then they restore the system from backup. And then, what happened in that time space between when I took my backup and then the time I did my restore? Well, that's where we use this secure tunnel. We take those journal files and anything that has happened since we did the backup, we update the new system so that the new system is exactly in sync with the original system. And so some of the things that we had to consider when we did this was whether we keep like the original file directory structure that came from the old system, or if we update the configuration with some new directory paths. And really what the options come down to is, one, that if we keep the original file structure, it simplifies the migration, but it increases the operational complexity. So, and then the other way was, it increases migration effort, but simplifies ongoing operations. So we ended up going with option one. But what that meant was that our managed services had standard procedures and standard tools that ran against all of the environments that they've always set up. But now, because we just did a lift and shift, it was harder to make sure that the tools were pointing in the right spots to make sure that we were being able to monitor everything effectively. We have a question in the back.
I have a little trick on just having the journal files in different locations.
Yep.
If you, I don't think you tried it before, if you get rid of the journal log file, and you give the location the journal is supposed to be in the CPF file, it actually reads the directory, scans all the files that are there, and rebuilds the journal log file. So if you have to move it to a different location,
Yeah.
that's how I would.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah. we love little tricks of the trade. What I was talking about moving the whole system over, really what we're talking about is all the data that was involved, but really what, another aspect of HealthShare is all the connectivity that we have to do. So one of the things that we did was we had to move all of the inbound HL7 interfaces, and so in this particular customer actually had a fair number of HL7 interfaces. And so there's a couple of different approaches that you could do to handle the migrations. What we ended up doing is we ended up deploying a new HL7 router on our new HealthShare Cloud environment. And then we configured that router with forwarding messages back to the legacy system, okay? And so what we did was we gradually transitioned each participant over to the new router to cut over before we did the cutover. And the reason we had to do it that way was because there were some security considerations that if we, we could have went the other way from the old one to the new one, but there was a lot of security concerns, and so we really had to address each participant to make sure that they were sending information in the most secure way possible. So we wanted to onboard them as much as we could. And then when we were doing the cutover, all we had to do was redirect. Instead of sending the messages to the old router, we sent it to the new environment. And that way the customers didn't experience any downtime. One of the other types of connectivity we had to deal with are inbound web services. So like, IHE messages that are coming over and clinical documents and stuff like that. And so we did have to conduct end-to-end testing for each of the participants. And we had to, and again, because of security reasons, we had to identify and list all of the IP addresses for all the participants. And then on cutover day, all we had to do was update the DNS to point to the new environment so that all the participants didn't have to do anything on their side as long as they were using the full qualified domain name. And then, which hopefully they were. Hopefully they were using best practices. Another type of connectivity you have to consider when doing migrations is SFTP. This is another one where we needed to establish a secure SFTP connection with and give the customers access for it. And so we had to, again, do some things with the allow listing, as well as provision new user credentials for SFTP. There was, in this particular case, they had some ODBC connectivity with Health Insight. So they were using those connections and running reports off the Health Insight tables. And so we just had to collaborate with, in this case, only the customer. This wasn't open to any of their participants, but we had to collaborate with the customer and make sure that they could validate their connectivity from their old environment to their new environment. And then we also were doing some LDAP integration so that everybody can sign in using their existing credentials. And then for outbound, we had to engage with their external partners to configure their outbound interfaces and make sure that we could connect to them. So we had to make sure we tested and validated with them. So in this particular case, some of the lessons learned was that not everybody was following the high trust type of certification that we were doing, and so we really had to do a lot of new security with participants and new security within their system. So, were all of and the things that you have to take into consideration is, were all of these connections compliant with security standards? A lot of these, this was an older customer, and some of them were not using, what we would consider security standards. Was the system management portal publicly accessible? So in our high trust environment, we do not allow the system management portal to be publicly accessed outside of our environment. And so these are considerations that you'll have to make. And has your default HS _services password been updated and not using the default? This is very important, and unfortunately, this customer did not. So they had their system management portal publicly accessible and the HS services password using the default password. So anybody could have went into their live system and messed around if they were a bad actor. So SFTP counts were not unique. We require them to be specific for the task that they're doing. They cannot share SFTP passwords, so sometimes you do have to deal with some process changes that are going on. As well, and then as with all projects, there were some definitely unplanned challenges. When mailing a physical blade across the country, stuff happens. And sometimes stuff happens twice, and you begin questioning whether or not you're dealing with nice people or not. And who to blame. But this thing was definitely battle worn by the time we got it, but we were able to get it into our rack regardless. There might have been a hammer involved, but I can neither confirm nor deny that.
Rumor.
It's rumor, all rumors. The security state, you'd really need to work with the customers to have them understand what the security standards are and how they're going to remediate their either lack of security or not following what they're doing. And again, reusing the legacy file directory structure was probably not the best option, even though that's the one we chose. And really, one of the limitations of this backup and restore was that both parties were using Veeam backups. So it was something that we could easily restore their backup. If they weren't using Veeam, then we probably wouldn't have been able to. But why would you even use this lift and shift model? Well, it is cheaper, it's quicker, but it has some limitations. Like, again, we're going to talk about in the next couple of types, we were able to squeeze in an upgrade, but this one we are just taking the same version and moving over. All right, so let's talk about historical message replay. This customer, this was a payer customer, and they had all of their historical files that they used from when they originally installed HealthShare to solve their 9115 CMS requirements. And so what they're doing is that they're moving their historical files that they had either through SFTP, or in this case, they also had an internal AWS system, so they were dumping a lot of their files that they were generating from their SQL data warehouse into S3 buckets. And then we would read that data and just re-implement it into the HealthShare cloud. So we provisioned a new HealthShare environment with the latest HealthShare version, and then we migrated all their custom code and production configurations to this new environment. Again, we compiled and had to make any changes that we needed to make, did some smoke testing, and then we just reviewed all of the directory and production settings, but we did make sure that we used new file directory paths. So a lot of their outbound business operations, we had to point to our internal directory file paths. But also when we were provisioning the new HealthShare environment, we used the standard way we set up all of our environments, so we knew exactly what we needed to monitor. And then the customer generated their historical data files. We transferred them, again, using SFTP and S3 buckets. And then we ran some tests, and then we loaded everything into the new environment. And so we were able to do that and do the cutover, again, with minimal but not zero operational downtime. So for them, they had different connectivity requirements. So we had a SFTP integration where, that we're using for some of the historical data reloading. This one was interesting because we had to do AWS cloud integration. Our private cloud is not in AWS, and so we had to be able to extract a lot of files from their S3 buckets. They also did a Okta identity provider changeover in the middle of our migration, so that offered some challenges, but we were able to use that for a single sign-on for the clinical viewer, as well as configured the Okta-based authorization for the FHIR messages via REST APIs that were coming through the InterSystems API Manager. And so we also just had to test these new publicly facing API endpoints, and then once we were secure in how they were working, we just needed to update the customer had to update their DNS records so that they redirect the public endpoints that they had published on their website to the new data center, and then they were able to have everybody be able to access the data. So why is this a good way of doing a migration? Well, we were able to do a free upgrade. So they were able to do a migration and upgrade in the time it would take to, in less time than it would take to do like a regular upgrade. We were using all of their source data that they already had. They didn't have to build anything new. They already had existing extractions, and we just used everything that they had, and we used their existing pipelines. We didn't even have to create any new customizations or any new pipelines or anything to handle this. And so that was what we did for historical message replays. So I have talked enough. Jim, why don't you bring us home?
Thanks, Sean. All right, so we had two great ways to migrate into HealthShare Cloud, and of course, the next customer in the door gave us a new challenge. So we had to innovate a little bit, and we came up with the migration framework. So just to give you a little bit of a background on this, we had a customer approach us. They were already a HealthShare customer. We had previously helped them migrate from a separate HIE to HealthShare back in the late 2010s, and they were looking to reduce their operations costs and total cost of ownership, and also just move to a better cloud. So they were migrating out of AWS, which meant that we couldn't lift and shift, and they had about 33 million patients worth of data that went back 11 years, so we couldn't replay the historical data. Most of the historical data was no longer kept in a raw format where we could process it, and none of the transformations that had been used for the initial migration were still in their initial versions. So it just didn't fit what we needed to do. So we sort of embarked on this journey with them to figure out a better way to do this migration. Oh, and by the way, they had a very tight budget, and they had to be done in 9 months. Completely moved with everything. They had over 300 data sources, they had payers, they had clinical data sources, they had government data sources, they were bringing everything together. It was a big, big, big migration project. And this is what we came up with. This is our migration framework, and we worked with one of our implementation partners, InterSystems designed, they built, and what it does is it it's an agent that you install into your new environment. So we provision a new cloud environment for you, and we install the agent there to receive messages, and we install the agent into your legacy environment, or your soon-to-be legacy environment, to send messages. And we install it into each edge. And what it does is it intelligently goes through your edge to look for patients that it has SDA or clinical data for, and it will package it up into an envelope with some metadata, or using a custom message format that we developed for migration, and it will send it across to the new system. Simultaneously, while it's doing that, it keeps a record of every patient that it's migrated, and if new data is received, we automatically sense for it, and we build a new container to replace the old. So we automatically keep you up to date as you go. So what that really allows us to do is it allows us to get your data migration started ahead of the rest of your project. So we're not waiting for transforms and other pieces to be migrated before we can turn on the data stream and see what happens. So we go into how this works, right? I mentioned we set it up on both systems. So that means that it's very online. You have to have good, reliable TLS connectivity. You need high bandwidth. You need good core counts on your source and receiving systems. And we can, in HealthShare Cloud, we can temporarily ramp up your resources in order to accommodate this, which is what we did for this customer as well. And then once things calm back down, we can draw your resources back down to do this. But we go through that process of bringing the two together, and then we turn it on. And for this customer, where they had over 300 data sources, we went with a set of their 10 lowest quality data sources as our starter. So we took the ones that we knew that we were going to have the most problems with, and we really jumped on those, focused on those, got the problem solved. We found a lot of issues with data at rest. We found a lot of issues with code that had been done into production environments without being done in lower environments, all the things you sometimes find when you migrate. But another piece of this was that we also had to upgrade, and our customer was behind by about 5 or 6 HealthShare versions, so we needed to bring them up to 24.1 so that they could take care of some business critical needs for them, such as USCDI support and some other pieces that they just didn't have in their current version. So, alongside that, they also had 11 years worth of documents that they had received. So these were mostly CDA, but there was also some other stable documents that had been received, and they needed to migrate those as well. So the SDA migrator, or the migration framework that we built, we enhanced it during the project to add some additional features where it will automatically scrape through the XDS repositories for data related to the same patients, package it up and send it, and it stays on top of it just as it does for SDA. So it's really kind of a fire and forget sort of system once you're sure everything is working, and you use the metadata that we build to make sure that it's working. So we actually give you a manifest of this patient has this many encounters with this many labs, with this many results, and there's this many documents. And you can check it out on the way out of the system, and you check it in on the way into the system, and there's an audit in both so that you can search both and find when there's an issue, if there's an issue that comes up with the data. So let's talk about a little bit more about the task areas for this one. So for a migration framework, our inbound HL7 interfaces, in this case, of course, this could be different for you, everything was hosted in an external interface engine. So our customer was responsible for migrating their VPN connectivity over, we supported them, we provided access, we set up the initial integration between the legacy and the go-forward system, but it was up to them to get their connectivity migrated. So we sort of had 3 work streams through this project. We had our data migration, we had our code migration, and we had our connectivity migration, and there were 3 different project teams that were interrelated and interdependent, but independent in terms of getting their work done. And that's one of our secrets of success for getting this done in 9 months. For inbound web services, the migration framework uses APIs. We built some custom APIs for it. We secure all those with mutual TLS, industry standard security. We do need that from a cloud provider or from your data center if you're migrating from there. And then for identity and access management, our customer had their own bespoke identity and access management solution that was based on AWS Cognito. And we took their code base and refactored it so that it would work in our cloud data center, and it's there today. For access gateways and outbound connections, we did have to go through the process of migrating all of those outbound connections to various like state reporting agencies, other places where you tend to send data from an HIE. They had a pretty robust S3 implementation for setting up buckets for us, and they wanted to migrate away from that. Cost was one of their main motivators for looking to move away from AWS, and they had some significant costs for data egress. So we worked with them to design a new SFTP solution and implement that as well. And as we did that, we migrated all of the pieces that were interacting with that in the legacy environment and refactored it to work in HealthShare Cloud. There was a pretty sizable customer application layer that had been built on top of HealthShare. So our customer was doing things like producing clinical notes documents for risk assessment. They were doing NCQA DAV certification. They were doing a bunch of other things that are great applications of our technology, but aren't necessarily part of the HealthShare stack. And we jumped in on this. We were really looking to help reduce the complexity of upgrades in the future for them, and part of that was making sure that we didn't have too much custom code running on their instances. So at the same time we stood up HealthShare, we stood up an Iris instance, and we built API connectivity between them. And we gave them access to their own Iris instance. We host that as well. And they were able to, while we were refactoring and moving all the historical stuff over, they were able to refactor their applications and move them across. And we've got this API suite that we've built between the two now, where you can interact with SDA, you can file SDA from Iris into HealthShare, you can act as a virtual edge. There's a lot of other things you can do with it, and we're hoping that there will be some value that other customers will find in that as well. And then for the core HealthShare configuration, we refactored a lot. We went through, we spent a couple hundred hours just going through, figuring out what had been done in their environments, figuring out the right way to bring those forward, and then actually writing code to refactor those things, and we got it all done in time. So when we talk about why this is a good way to migrate, so much like a historical message replay, this gets you the ability to move up to a new HealthShare version. However, this doesn't require you to have all of your historical data available in raw messages along with all the different versions of your transforms. If you think about data transformation over time, right, it's like rings of a tree. And as you have you might have a lab system that stops sending you one field for 2 weeks, and you have to be able to replicate that when you play that historical message again. You have to be able to find the ticket history and see that there was a problem that was resolved, and you have to replicate that problem for that period of time. But with the SDA, with using SDA to migrate, we avoid that problem. So we bring in data that's known good, it's known to have filed into your existing system, we bring it in with the same quality, we bring it in with all the pieces of the Streamlit that you need, and it all files in and comes across. The other big benefit to this is that this is a zero downtime upgrade. From us, when we went live with this customer, the only downtime that we experienced was the couple of seconds that it took for DNS records to propagate, which is just out in the internet. Once we switched things over, users were logged into one system, the next session that came in, logged on to the new system seamlessly. Everything was great. So overall, when we talk about results for this, we did finish this migration about 15% under budget. We finished a couple days ahead of schedule, and our customer was happy and has continued to be happy since. So, all right. So just to summarize our 3 approaches, we've got lift and shift, right? We pick up your blades, pick up your servers, we ship them to our data center, we load them into our physical racks, we restore from backup, we replay from journal files, and you're good to go in a new place once you've migrated your connectivity. We've got our historical reload. We set you up with a brand new environment. You give us your messages. We work with you to figure out how to load those, and then we load them into the new system, so you get an upgrade in addition to a move to our cloud. And the migration framework, which uses your current data that's known good from your existing HealthShare environment, gives you a no downtime upgrade as long as DNS cooperates out of the internet, and it includes an upgrade to whichever version of HealthShare is latest or greatest when we move forward to it. And for each of these, these sort of all have some things in common that you need to consider. If you're considering a move to HealthShare Cloud, it's very important. I think we're going to start from the bottom on this one. The most important piece is coordination and communication. HealthShare migrating from either from on-prem to cloud or migrating from a different HIE platform to HealthShare is 95% of change management activity. Like we all know it, it's just part of how it works. You're constantly reacting in real time to the challenges that you're facing as you're going through your data and finding things that you didn't expect, or if you're working with your participants and finding that participant A can't actually build a VPN with you. What do? All the things that we encounter as we go through, and communication is really critical to solving those. Beyond that, there's just a lot of planning. So your external interface strategy, you have to have it figured out. You have to know who your data sources are. You have to know who your key contacts are at those data sources. You have to know who to escalate to when they don't respond, if they don't respond. Security and access control, you need to be literate on high trust and on other security protocols that you're going to need to follow. You're going to need to be fairly well versed on not only federal but also any state regulations that you might have, including consent. It's important to have someone with subject matter expertise on those sorts of things to help with the migration. Then data availability and migration scope itself. You need to be able to have a good understanding of how available your source data actually is. If you're looking to do a message replay based, that data needs to be stored not only in a durable place and at high quality, but you also need to be able to provide that in FIFO order. So we need to be able to load the messages in transactional order as they were received in real time when they were received, however long ago that was. And then for infrastructure transition planning, this is your nuts and bolts networking. You need to have people who can coordinate and orchestrate all the different parts of moving your DNS records over. Establishing your TLS connections, managing certificates, getting all those things in place. And the InterSystems Managed Services team does an excellent job managing our side of that equation, but we also need someone from your side to meet with us and to make sure that we have a good dialogue back and forth about what to expect as we move forward into the HealthShare Cloud. All right. So up next, we've just got a little bit of a sample plan, and this is a migration framework based sample plan because I'm a little biased. I like the migration framework, it's mine. As you can see, what we did for this project is we broke the project up into several work streams, as I mentioned before, but we focused all resources towards getting the migration started soonest. Like, it was the long pole of our tent, it was the biggest risk to the project timeline, and we had to do it. It was do or die for us. So we stripped away all the rest of the optional features, all the code refactoring, all that other stuff, moved it off to a separate work stream, and we really put everybody on getting things ready to move. And from the date the contract was signed to the date we started ingesting our first sets of SDA containers into the new environment was about 90 days. It was 3 months, which is pretty much unheard of for a data migration for us, and we were able to get things started. We actually had data at rest in the new system about 2 months before users encountered it, and without any drama at all. It was very orderly once we got things flowing. So, all right. Cool. So that's it for our 3 different ways to migrate to the HealthShare Cloud. Do we have any questions?
Yeah, Jim, I would make up that the same methodologies could be used for, and I think you said it earlier, sort of agnostic, even if they were legacy systems outside of HealthShare, right? So like, I know what you guys were going through was HealthShare to HealthShare, but if there are other systems, I would think same methodologies, same processes, and those kind of things could be used to do the same type of migrations, right?
Yeah, I think that the migration, the lift and shift migration, is probably limited to just HealthShare, but we've certainly done historical message replays across, and we've also done more longitudinal approaches to migrate from another HIE into HealthShare as well, which would be similar to SDA. Thanks, Scott.
Migrations have you done, and is there a community that we can plug into to discuss lessons learned and that type of thing?
So we've done a couple of each. I would say for migration framework, we've only done the one so far, but we're actively working with another customer now to use the migration framework technology to bring them in from a different vendor's HIE platform. Through professional services, yeah, we can put you in touch with other customers who have been through this. If you're interested in working with it, definitely reach out to your account manager, and they'll reach out to us, and we'll get a dialogue going.
Hello, yes, you mentioned a couple of migrations that you did. What were the total work hours, just to get a better idea of the work effort?
So the effort to migrate using the migration framework, I think it was about 3,000 or 4,000 hours of effort across building out the tooling and everything else, but that includes the overhead to build the tooling. We had initially budgeted about 7,000 hours for it. We came in under. I don't know, Sean, if you could comment on the lift and shift and historical replay.
I don't remember. I wasn't the project manager. I'm the technical person who just logs hours. I don't track them, so I don't know offhand how long it took.
I would definitely agree with Jim's estimate on our bigger one that we did, Manifest Medics. But it also depends.
No names to protect the innocent.
So, but it also depends on the size of customer that you're implementing, right? I mean, that you're migrating. So, that's a big part of it. So
yeah, the one that we did, the historical one, wasn't super huge. They were a medium to smaller type of customer. But I mean, that one probably took 4 months, right? I'm not going to tell you who it was, Amir, but you know who I'm talking about. Okay, we're just about out of time. Don't forget to sign up for early access program. Don't forget to give us a survey and give us your feedback. And we thank you very much for coming out. We really appreciate your spending your time with us today.
Yeah, thanks.
So thank
If you're interested in migrating, talk to us.